Today we're going to do percent of change. The percent of change is just a ratio that compares the change in the quantity to the original amount. Percent of change is equal to the amount of change over the original amount. That might look similar to what you saw yesterday, as in percent is equal to part over whole. So we're going to use the formula we learned yesterday and apply it to percent of change problems. What we do is we take the percent of change. To find it, we take the amount of change over the original amount. How much did it change over the original amount? That tells me a percent of change. I know that if the percent of change is positive, then it's called a percent of increase. It got larger. I know if the percent is negative, then it's a percent of decrease. All right. So this is what some of your homework problems are going to look like. It says find the percent of change when it was started at 60 degrees Fahrenheit and went to 84 degrees. Then it's going to ask you to state whether it's an increase or decrease. So along with your percent of change, you also have to state whether it's an increase or decrease. If you don't do that tomorrow, it's going to be wrong. So what I do to find a percent of change, I look back to my formula. It says you take the amount of change over the original amount. To find the amount of change, I take my final amount minus my original amount every time. My final amount minus my original amount. My final amount here was 84 degrees. My original, what it started out, was 60 degrees. So I found my amount of change is 24. I divide that by my original. So what's important is you figure out what's your original amount and what's your final amount. 24 divided by 60 gives you this, 0.4, which you have to change it to a percent, so 0.4 is 40%. Then you need to decide whether it's an increase or decrease. You look at it and see, is it positive or is it negative? This is positive, so this is an increase. You can verify that by looking up here. It went from 60 to 84. Did it get larger or did it get smaller? It got larger, so that's an increase. Write this down. It says Ty had 52 comic books, now he has 61. So the first thing I need to do is find my amount of change. I do that by taking the final minus the original. My original was 52. My final was 61. So 61 minus 52 is 9. You take your amount of change over the original and find your percent of change. My original was 52. 9 divided by 52 gives me 0.173, which I have to change to a percent, which is 17.3%. And this is an increase. It went from 52 to 61. That's larger. It said Henry had 318 stamps. Now he has 273. So I need to find the amount of change over the original amount. So to find the amount of change, I take my final minus my original. My final is 273. My original is 318. So 273 minus 318 is negative 45. Then I divide that by my original, which is 318. Negative 45 divided by 318 gives me this, negative 0.142. Negative 0.142. Which I have to change to a percent by times and by 100. So that gives me negative 14.2%. Is this an increase or decrease? This is a decrease because the percent is negative. It's also because if you look, 318 to 273 means he lost stamps. So there's our answer. Decrease, and it's a negative 14.2. All right, this is the amount of increase is what we call markup. When you go to a store, you don't pay what the store paid for that item. You pay what they paid plus the extra, and that's called the markup. The selling price is what you pay. So that's the markup plus what they paid. The discount is how much the regular price is reduced. Black Friday, you go for sales that are 50% off. So that's half of what it was the day before. All right? So that would be that's discount. Find the selling price if a store pays $42 for a pair of rollerblades and the markup's 25%. So they pay $42. Is that how much they're going to charge you?
No.
No, they have to make a profit. They have to pay for their electric bill. They have to pay for their workers. And they have to make a little extra. So what they do is they mark up the price. Right? Even though it only costs them $42, that's not how much they're going to charge you. They're going to charge you that plus extra. That's that markup. So we're going to use our part is equal to our percent times our whole. We're going to use that equation, the equation we learned yesterday. We're going to find out how much they're marking it. Now, this problem I'm going to show you two ways of doing it. All right? This is the first way. I would write both of them down and then you decide which way you want to use. This is method number one. You find how much they're raising it. So we take our percent, 0.25, times 42. And you find how much they're raising it by, what the markup is. When you take 0.25 times 42, you find it's 10.5. They're raising it by $10.50. So is that how much you pay? $10.50?
No, you pay.
No. What you pay, the selling price is the part plus the whole. The markup versus how much they paid. The original. So $10.50 plus $42. That gives you $52.50. So that's how much you pay for that pair of rollerblades. So they make $10.50 profit. That's what they use to pay the bills and pay their workers. Any questions? That was method number one. I'm going to show you the other way. You don't have to do it this way, but some of you found method number two yesterday to be easier. So what I have to do is how much is the selling price? What percentage of $42 is the selling price? Well, the markup's 25%, and we started at 100, right? 42 of 42 is 100%. So they're charging 125% of the original price. 25% plus the 100%, because they're going to make $42 back no matter what. It rarely goes below what they pay. They're not losing money on the object. So they're going to pay. So that 100% is 42. Then they're raising it by 25. So they're charging, the selling price is 125%. So all you do is take 1.25 and you times it by 42. 125% of $42 is this, $52.50. And that's your answer.